Okay, 4.3, Introduction to Factoring. Okay. What we do first is we look for what do they have in common. Greatest common factor. Okay? First thing we look for is the greatest common factor. That's what do all of the terms have in common. The C is common. Okay? Okay, the biggest number they have in common. Okay, what does a 6a squared and a 3a have in common? 6 and 3 have a factor of 3. What about the a's? They both have at least one a. Okay, what you do is you put what they have in common on the outside of the parentheses. On the inside, if you have two terms, you need two terms inside here. Okay? The first term will be what did you multiply this by to get a 6a squared? A 2 and an a. That gives you 6 and that gives you a squared. Plus, right, it's exactly the same, so you have to have at least a 1 there. You can't leave it blank just because it's the same. Because when you multiply it back, you have to get two terms. So you have to have two terms here.
And then you just go from there and answer it up?
That is the answer.
Oh, that is.
If you multiply it back, you'll get the question, and you don't want the question, you want a factor. Okay? We're just finding the factorization of it. Okay, what does the 8x squared and a 4x to the fourth? 4 and
4 squared.
they both have at least two x's, right? We have two terms, so we need 2 in here. The first term will be 2. Do we need an x? We already have 2, so we don't need any more. Minus, yeah, we don't need a number, we just need the more x's. X squared is x to the fourth. You can always check it by multiplying it back, but don't write that as your answer. Okay? We have 3 terms now. We're going to have 3 terms in the parentheses. What do these 3 things have in common? The coefficient, these both divide by 4, but that doesn't, so we can't use a 4.
2a.
Right, 2. They all have A's? Yeah. Do they all have B? C? D? Nope, none of that. Okay. So we have 3 terms, we need 3 in here. First term, we don't need the A, we already have it, so we need a B. Minus, we need a 3, we don't need the A, we need a C. Plus, 6, we don't need the A. Okay, so that was all of that. Just factoring out a greatest common factor. Okay, now what if it asks you to factor out a negative coefficient? That means the number on the outside needs to be negative. Okay, so we need a negative on the outside. What do they have in common? Just 5. They don't have an x. Both of them don't have x's, so we put the negative 5 out there. And you have 2 terms, you have 2 in here. What's the first term going to be?
X.
Just x, right. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. This says negative here, but don't, you need, if you put a negative here, the second term's positive. So we need to put plus. Negative 5 times what? 9. So when we factor out a negative, it changes them to the different sign. This is positive now, inside. What can we factor out of these? The negative what? They both divide by 7. Do they both have a variable?
No.
Not the same one, right. So just -7. First term will be x squared, plus or minus here? Plus. Right. To get 56, you need n to y, right. Negative coefficient. They don't all have a 2. They don't all have an m. So we're just factoring out a -1 or just the negative. Okay? So that just changes every single side. This now is m to the 3rd. This now is plus m squared. This is a minus m, and it changes this to a plus 2. So it just changed every side. Okay, what do we have in common down here? -3? Okay, so -3. Y, no, this one doesn't have a y. Okay, so the first term, y cubed, right? Instead of plus, remember we factor a negative. It changes the signs in here. 4, y squared, change it to plus 5y, change it to minus what? 8. Okay. We only have 2 more pages, guys. Look at that. We're gonna make it. I think. What do these 2 things have in common? They're being multiplied by b minus 2. So we're writing that as a factor. What was b minus 2 multiplied by? A. Plus c. This was multiplied by a positive c. Okay? What do these 2 things have in common? X squared minus 3. What is our other term here? Our other factor? A minus 2. Very good. What do these have in common? X squared plus 4. You do it in different color. And the other term? B minus 1. If there's no number there, it's a 1. Change colors. What do these have in common? X minus 2. It's multiplied by x plus 5 plus x plus 8. We need to simplify that. So we have x minus 2 is multiplied by x plus x is 2x. Positive 5 and a positive 8, positive 13. So that threw a little bit of a kink in there, a little twist. Same thing's going to happen on the next one. What do they have in common? M minus 4. And you write all the rest of this stuff in the next one. M plus 3 plus M minus 3. So we have the M minus 4. M plus M is 2M. Plus 3 minus 3. 0. Okay. know if I left myself room for this next one. Still writing. Okay, now we have 4 terms here. This thing that I wrote down here says first look for greatest common factor. If there's 2 terms, look for difference of squares, which we aren't doing that factoring yet, or unfoil, which we're not doing that factoring yet. We are grouping. There's 4 terms. So we're going to be doing grouping right now. And then make sure everything's factored all the way. So first of all, we're grouping. There's 4 terms. Did we find a common factor in this? First thing you look for always. Common factor? No. Okay. So we're going to group those 2 and those 2. What do these 2 have in common? Y to the 7th. They both have at least 7. First term, y minus 7 plus, you're always going to have a y, the same thing that was in parentheses here will end up over here. So go ahead and write it over here. And then how are we going to get a positive y? Just by adding 1, right? 1y. 1 times 7 is negative 7. And now we're doing the same thing we did with these up here. What did they have in common? Y minus 7. The other term, y to the 7th plus 1. We have factored it. Change colors. We're going to group again. First thing you look for, greatest common factor. Is there anything common to all 4 terms? No. Nothing common to all 4. Group them. The first 2 have what in common? B to the 3rd. They both have at least 3. Okay, the first term, just a 1. It doesn't need another b. Minus, you need another b. You need another b, right? Because you only have 3, you need 1 more. Okay, we need to write this again over here. How are we going to get a b? 1 times what gives you b? 1 times b. And we need it to be positive to get a plus b. Right? This looks weird. Is that going to give that to you? No. What if I wrote it wrong? This does not come out to that. Gives you that, but that's minus 3b squared. Wonder if I wrote 1 down wrong. Because it doesn't come out. Minus 3b to the 4th. I'm trying to find out where I got it from. I thought I wrote down all the ones that would come out. Oh, it was 5-4. Sorry guys. 5 and a 4. That 3 wasn't a 3, it was a 5. That means this is not going to work. Sorry. 5-4 and then that. Okay, so, starting over again, what do these have in common?
Four.
B to the fourth. First term will be B. Second term,
One.
three. You don't need any more B's. So we're going to write this over here. And it's exactly the same, so you just need to multiply it by a positive 1, right? You get B minus 3. So what do they have in common? B minus 3. Second factor will be B to the fourth plus 1. Sorry about the mess.
Does it matter which order you're going?
I just always put the one that's the same first, but if you put it in a computer, it should take it either way. Because they're factors, it doesn't matter what order you multiply in. Okay? If you have to go, you can go. You want to write them down, you can do them yourself. These are all mixed up things that are from page 352. So if you have to catch a ride, that's fine, you can go. Okay, do those have anything in common first? They don't all have T's, and they don't all have 2's, so we grouped them. Okay, these two have T squared. First term will be T, second term, 6. Write this again. How are we going to get a negative 2t? Multiply it by negative 2. Negative 2t and a negative 12, so that's good. So, they both have a t plus 6. The other term is t squared minus 2. This is almost a difference of squares, but it's not, so we're fine. There's your answer. Is there anything in common here? Common factor? 5? No, A, just 5, right? Okay. 2A to the third, we're dividing by 5. Divided by 5 is 10A. Divided by 5. 3. Divided by 5. 15. Okay, now we're going to group in here. That 5 is going to stay out here, don't lose it. What do these two have in common? A? 2? We both have a 2 and an A both, right? Okay. And how are we going to get the first term? A squared, and then this will be 5. Okay, and then we're going to rewrite this thing right here, a squared plus 5. See you later. Okay, how are we going to get this first term? Multiply by negative 3. Negative 3a squared and a minus 15. Okay, we have this in common. A squared plus 5. The other term will be 2a minus 3. And don't drop the 5 off. Make sure it's out there.